guides is multifold for me. It's a privilege. It really is a privilege. It brings out gratitude in me that I am able to do this. Also, that I have the technology to do this, that I have the backing of my spiritual center, the ministers and practitioners and members there to do this. And it's also a learning experience because not only do I learn something from the speakers, but almost every day I get confronted with, maybe not, many times I get confronted with a quote from an author who I know either very little about or nothing about. So it gives me the opportunity to go and look up, oh, who was that? Today's first quote is from Eva Bell Werber, and I didn't know anything about her. And she was born in, let me see, she was born in 1888 in Lungsport, Indiana. And then she eventually she developed a love of art. She eventually was guided to the Chicago Art Institute where she graduated, but she also wrote a whole bunch of books. And some of the ones I see here, they've all got similar titles. Quiet Talks with the Master, that's capital M. Journey with the Master, Voice of the Master in His Presence, capital H, capital P. The Writings of Eva Bell Werber and Experience Your Perfect Soul. And I guess there's a lot more. So she looks like she was a fairly prolific author. What did she say? She said, be very still. Recognize only me, that's a capital M, and all that comes your way shall manifest me. And that's another way of saying that it's done unto you as you believe. It's done unto you as you believe. Just another way of saying that. So if you believe that God is all there is, or there is one source of everything in this universe, or the multiverse, the omniverse, whatever it is, and that you, because there's only one source and that's in and through everything, that you're an expression of that one source, and you're intimately connected with it because you're an expression of it. Therefore, what you truly believe is believed in that divine mind which encompasses everything, and therefore what you believe comes into material existence, which is what she's saying. Be very still, recognize only me, and all that comes your way shall manifest me. So you got to go into the quiet to actually do this, in other words. And Ernest Holmes is more general. He says, the enlightened ones of the ages have told you that your recognition of life is God within you, recognizing itself in everything that you do. So your recognition of life is the divine source of all being, ground of all being within you, recognizing itself in everything you do. And that was from Ernest Holmes in This Thing Called You. This Thing Called You. And this is Eugene Holden again. He says, the word recognition means to know again. True, it's recognition. Cognito in Latin means I know. The first step of affirmative prayer is recognition. In this step, we recognize the source and substance of all life. For us to recognize this presence, capital B, means we have known this presence within ourselves sometime in our eternal lives. He goes on to say, as we recognize this presence within ourselves, we start to recognize it in others. We start to recognize that there is a source from which all things are created, or if you like, from which all things emanate. This is the essence of our interconnectedness. Not only are we to recognize the source in all life, we are to acknowledge it as well. Okay, he says, I use this example. I can recognize a friend of mine as they walk through the door, but if I don't acknowledge them, there'll be no interaction. So I can acknowledge the fact that God, the divine spirit, is all there is, but if I actually don't truly recognize that as an expression of everything, then I'm kind of wasting my time. So in other words, yeah, God is all there is. But if that's as far as it goes, nothing. But because God is all there is, I am one with that expression, and therefore that expression is in and through and as me, and therefore its power is flowing through me, and that's why I can actually manifest things on this earth plane, not because of anything I'm doing, but because the source of all being flows through me and acts as me. I think I actually made a mistake. Recognition, cognition, the word in Latin for I know is cogito. Oh, I said cogito, it's cogito. Not that that matters to anybody except those who know Latin. Cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. And carrying on with our friend Eugene Holden, he says, our invitation is to not only recognize the divine in ourselves, but also to acknowledge the divine in others. Again, this requires a radical shift in consciousness. Maybe, as Ernest Holmes reminded us, change your thinking, change your life. True. It's time to have a new thought on this ageless wisdom. So maybe the way I look at this is that if you recognize that the divine, the ground of all being, spirit, God, the all is all there is, then you realize that you're an expression of it. And it also follows that everything else is an expression of it. Even a rock is an expression of it. As far as we know, a rock can't do anything. It's an expression of it. But on a more intimate basis, every single person and being that you see on this planet is God in essence. It's God working. So often in New Thought, we're misunderstood when people say, I am God. They're not talking about, I am the all that is. They're saying, I'm an expression of that one source that flows through everything. So they're not saying, yeah, I'm God and I can do anything. No, they're saying that I'm an expression of God and the power of God flows through me, but I can only use as much of it. This was one of Ernest Holmes' points. I can only use as much of it as I realize I can use. What the amount that I believe I can use is the amount that I can use. So the wisdom of the ages states that there is only one life and that we're all part of that one life, which is what we've just been saying. Now is the time to recognize this and to live from this, quote, united state of consciousness, unquote. Obviously derived from United States or the United Kingdom or the United anything, you know. So yeah, today was an opportunity for challenge. You know, I was busily going about my day. I was actually going to some ribbon cuttings for the Woodlands Chamber, and in between one of them, I worked out. And then before I could get to the final one, I got a phone call. And my wife was at a group called the International Friends, and she's on the board there, and she actually is the one who collects all the raffle ticket money. But I got a call from one of the guys who's also on the board. He's the secretary. And he said, oh, you need to come over right now, David, because Barbara's fallen and I think somebody's dialed 911. So I dash over there and parts of the emergency groups there, and eventually the ambulance came. And indeed, they hauled her off to one of the local hospitals here into the emergency room. And I went up. Cut a long story short, she was in a lot of pain and she couldn't get up, but she'd actually dislocated her shoulder. Fortunately, they put her shoulder back in place at the hospital. Then they took a CT scan from her head down to her pelvis to make sure there's no more damage, and it doesn't look like there is. So it's just going to be a matter of taking pain meds, putting on pain creams, and getting around because she's got bruises all over the place. But you know, the funny thing was that when I was driving to the emergency room from the International Friends place where they'd taken her, I just decided everything was going to be okay. And I wasn't in a panic. I wasn't feeling queasy. I felt pretty good actually. I mean, obviously I'm sad that Barbara had this accident, but I really was kind of at peace with it because I just knew everything would work out. And indeed it did. It turned out to be nothing. It turned out to be a dislocated shoulder, which is very, very painful, but it wasn't something like horrendous, like broken hips, broken arms, and all the rest of it. So And I really felt good about it. And the only thing I can attribute that to is readings like this, is doing my prayer work and living in a community that actually is very supportive. So, and despite all the crud going on out there, you really can be centered. The hurricane, the calmest place in the hurricane is right at the center of the storm. And I really felt very calm driving over there. I really did. And sometimes in the past, I've not been that way at all. So I just thought I would explain that. And some of you know her anyway. Her name is Barbara, and she's the social butterfly. So I'm going to be much of a social butterfly, I don't think, for the next few days. But anyway. So besides readings, I become the head cook and bottle washer. I get to clean the cat boxes, feed the cats, cook all the meals. I cook a lot of the meals anyway. Make the smoothie out of that anyway. In other words, doing Barbara's duties as well as mine. So, but it's all good, and I feel good. Reverend Lisa will be back tomorrow morning at 9:15. I'll be back tomorrow around about 5 p.m. Our service will be on Sunday at 11. I will be in it. Please acknowledge us. I mean, once you acknowledge us, when you give us a like, that's fantastic. But when you pass it on to somebody else, it's even better. So I appreciate you liking us. Please, if you like these kind of readings and my interpretations of them, then please pass it on. Wherever you saw this, whether you saw it on Facebook, LinkedIn, you saw it on, we're also Instagram sometimes. Where else do I post it? When I can remember, Mastodon sometimes, Blue Sky, and so on and so on. So Thrive, etc. And I'll post them. Reason I don't post them on TikTok is because they're really too long. It's better to have short stuff on TikTok. So maybe I need to just make some reels and put those on TikTok, which will probably be good. So make a piece of it that can be separated out and just put on TikTok. I've spoken too long today. Please have a good rest of the day. Please take care of yourselves before you take care of anybody else. And until next time, thanks for watching. Namaste.